I like Endorfy. They also sent me a cool hoodie. Good afternoon, welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm recently the 4-piece variety Walker Triple XL, and now we have the Fortis 5 Dual and the Fera 5 Black Edition. I have previously done the Navis F240, which was very good, price versus performance considered. And I was looking on the site at these, and they are giving a 6-year warranty, including the fan, which is kind of otherworldly. I mean, there's not much that can go wrong with a block of metal unless you were to hurl it at a wall or something equally destructive. So I like air coolers because of that. Once the fan dies, slap on another fan and you've kind of always got the value of the air cooler until the actual socket size changes and you can't use the mounting hardware anymore. It's going to be with you for basically its entire lifetime, that 6-year sort of lifetime, maybe even longer. But anywho, we should probably get into what makes these unique, and it's actually kind of exactly the same in the mounting hardware style, except there's a new backplate with the Black Edition, which I'm hoping becomes the standard, because these backplates were a little bit difficult to actually get them to attach. It was a weird setup where you had to put it at like a 3-degree angle to be able to get to the right mounting points for the LGA 1700 and 1851 on the Intel, because we've got a 13600K on the test bench, so I had to kind of go through that. But the new one is much better. You just have to play a little bit of Legos to put it together before you attach the mounting bracket to it. Taking the stuff off is super easy. The plate, as I said, this thing, yeah, this mounting plate attaches to the top over there, and then there's just 2 screw-in points on either side, and they all work basically exactly the same. Underside of these coolers, you're going to see all of that beautiful direct contact heat piping, which is so important. They've also put that little heat sink that sits on top of the heat pipes, which actually does help because it's a bit more surface area around the wicking point, meaning that it's going to be able to pull a little bit more heat out of the CPU. Now for testing, as I said, 13600K, we've got 6000 megahertz. These are CL36s that I've got on here. It was difficult to get CL30, okay, and these were a deal right before the RAM price went absolutely astronomical. So we're talking 2% performance difference. Okay, people, it'll be okay. Crucial P310 Atom 850. We'll put the full spec on the screen for you. But yes, the CPU is in the high performance mode, so it will draw up to 190 watts. It's still a thirsty boy. It's not the 220 that it used to do pre-microcode update, but it's still a hefty boy. And if we look at the performance result, on the locked 50% fan curve, they actually were very comparable between the Fera 5 and the Fortis. And I did try a dual fan on the Fera 5. It didn't really make a difference. They include mounting hardware for you to put a second fan on the back, so you can do a push-pull, but it really didn't make that much of a difference. What made the biggest difference was fan curve. Just slap a huge amount of fan curve on these things because they make zero noise. That is the big plus. Now between the Fortis 5 and the Fera 5, before we get away from the actual performance results, something that keeps coming to mind is that the Fortis 5 should theoretically be considerably better than the Fera 5. But what I think is happening over here is the heat spreader on the 13600K can't actually access enough of the heat pipes and of the sort of die area. So even though this has a lot more surface area and technically larger fans, and 2 of them at the same time, it should be significantly better, but it kind of isn't. And that's, I think, just because of the internal heat spreader. But on the Cinebench result, we actually got by 1 point the best run that this had ever put down, even compared to our H100R Pro XT, which I'd lapped and done a whole bunch of little tweaks to it so that it would get its absolute best performance. And I think when you have a much bigger die size area, because looking at the bottom of that again, it's kind of been made for things like socket TR4 or old X299, more HED parts, HEDT parts at least, and like Xeons and stuff like that have a much bigger heat spreader size, and in which case you'll probably be able to maintain that performance across those larger CPUs. So TLDR, even with the fan curve at 100% and me putting the voice meter in its gob, it still only got to 42 decibels. So you can access all of the fan curve, which means that's really the inherent performance factor, where a lot of the other ones literally start sounding like pool pumps. I have to disconnect my UPS because it's an online UPS and it has cooling, and the fan in that is louder than the fans over here. The new backplate that came with this sucker was much better. I'm hoping that they standardize this one. It's okay, it is just a little bit of a faff. It's a bit difficult to get it there, and it's still rubberized, so you shouldn't worry about it damaging your hardware or anything like that. Overall, between the two, I do think this one is slightly better value for normal desktop parts. For those of you who, in general, between 120 and 180 watts, this is actually going to be perfectly fine because you can access all of that fan curve. 700 bucks for this guy is a kind of a steal, and the big boy is about 1,100 to 1,200 rand, and that will perform better on HED parts, HEDT parts at least, and things with a bigger die size. Then you'll be able to access all of that surface area and those heat pipes and kind of get the most of them. You would always think that it's like, I don't want to just have to throw fan curve at something to get it to perform, but in this instance you can, because it doesn't sound like a flip and pull pump on your desk. Anywho, that is all I have for you on these Endorfy coolers. We will be testing their fans in the near future, and I've got some thermal paste from the supplier as well. So we're basically, I think before the end of the year, going to publish 4 more reviews. Hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.